Welcome to the Artist Work Ethic Podcast. I'm Mike Pelak. I'm an actor, screenwriter, and filmmaker who's always looking to maximize my time and potential as I work to break in. In this podcast, I talk to artists of all kinds who have seen success in their fields about their process, habits, and work ethic. Today on the show is Tim Barry. Tim is a singer, songwriter, and guitarist. He's the lead singer of the Richmond, Virginia-based punk rock band Avail. In addition to Avail, Tim has been performing solo music of his own since 2004. A couple quick things before we jump into the episode. I've talked in the past about myself working on breaking into screenwriting. Please check out blackoilfilms.com/screenwriting. There you can check out some of the screenplays I've written. I have the first 10 pages of each one uploaded, but feel free to email me at theartistsworkethicpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to send you a full script if you're interested in reading. Last thing before we get into the episode, I would love anyone listening to subscribe, rate, and review the Artist's Work Ethic Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. It really helps us put the show out there for more people to listen to. Tim, thank you for coming on with me today.
You're very welcome.
So through punk rock, we both come from a DIY or a DIY influenced background. That's been very, significant to my work ethic and just knowing that I can go out there and get something done if I just do it. How would you say that DIY has contributed to your work ethic?
I'd say that some people come up with a DIY ethic and sometimes don't even know it. And I'd be a candidate for that. I didn't know what DIY was until someone said I am. Meaning I kind of always just moved from project to project, and then probably later found an attraction to other people who worked with sort of the DIY ethics because I'd already inherited them for some reason. Perhaps it's in my pedigree or my genes. I don't know. But I've spent my whole life sort of like coming up with ideas and working to fruition and then moving to the next one. Even to this day, that's what I do. I just don't know why.
I mean, would you say that the work ethic that you've got was something that came from how you were raised or some external factor later on in your life?
I have no idea because when you, in regards to work ethic, often what we're talking about as sort of like public people, meaning musicians or artists or comedians or writers or whatever, is your DIY ethics related to your public output. I guess that I have that not just with the public, and I don't know why I choose to like always create projects and try to get through them. I don't know where it comes from. I'd say that my brother and my sister both are sort of self-sustaining themselves. We are maybe ahead of the generations of people who like, maybe we were the ones who invented side hustles. Because I've always, in the past, I always had like a regular job in carpentry shops or doing whatever, but I was always playing music and I was always touring in between, and whatever I did at home for work, I did so that I could get back out on the road. And the road didn't afford me any financial luxuries, but for whatever reason, that continued through most of my life. Like I'm a migratory bird, like I have to just keep traveling in circles around the world. And still to this day. So I have certainly stuck with that DIY thing my whole life, and I don't fly it under the flag of it or use it as a label, a trophy. It's just how some people are.
Sure. I mean, how would you say you're structuring your day-to-day to balance, your life, your regular life stuff along with your music, whether it's writing, touring, or just if you're answering emails and all that type of stuff?
I should say now I live on music. I live on the art itself. and I do so because I don't live outside of my means financially. I have a very structured day. And if I don't work, it's very intentional. So if I'm on an airplane and you're sitting next to me and you ask what I do for work, I will say music retail management. And I won't give them much more information, but that's what I do. So I wake up every day, I get my kids ready for school, I drop them off at school. And after that, the first thing I do is I exercise because it clears my head. And I usually go running. If I don't do that, I ride bikes or I walk. And that's sort of how my day starts. That's my morning coffee. I think of what's most important to accomplish that day. And then the next thing I do is I play music. And I do that every single day. And when I'm done playing music is when I do the management, which is sort of my least favorite thing in the world, not because I'm poor at organizing, but because I cannot stand computers. I don't know why, but they really drive me crazy.
As we're staring at each other through a computer now.
No, it's not that I dislike the there's many aspects to technology that I find to be super important, and what creates the ability for so much of us to actually make a living off of music, art, comedy, whatever it is relied upon computers. So I can't criticize them. Just for me, I just find them vexing. And like yesterday, when I had two people try to help me send a PDF that never made it through to the opposite end, and how something as simple to some people could take me so long drives me crazy. But that's how my day's structured. And I work. There's a lot of work going on, and then I pick up my kids, and I'm super disciplined about not using social media or computers when I have my kids. Like when they go to sleep, I might get a little more work done, and then I go to sleep. And that's my day. And then I try to always take time off.
Yeah.
Like I look forward to this Friday where I won't be doing anything at all, except probably relic hunting for Civil War junk from the second I wake up until the second I go to sleep. And I need those kind of days to reset myself.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that you don't have to like go crazy killing yourself working 20 hours a day to be productive. And it sounds like one of the best parts of your day is playing music every single day and just keeping that consistency going, and not letting it kind of falter away.
Yeah, and it's also out of necessity because I have a lot of songs, and I like to be able to play them, like instantly. But I'm like an example, I'm very focused on music right now because as soon as I finish a project, I start a new one. So I just finished doing Fest down in Gainesville, Florida, and the second I got back on Monday, I started working on a 3-day, finalizing the details of a 3-day festival that I curate in Richmond every November. That includes a ton of different musicians. I play every night. It's a totally different set every night. We're doing a kids show, which is crazy. I got to get all the merchandise organized. I'm doing input lists and stage plots and, all the advances and guest list details. And I truly do everything on my own. But the foundation of all of that is the crappy 3-chord songs that I play. So I have to be able to play them well.
How important would you say that persistence and just perseverance have been to your career, whether it was, in the early days with Avail or when you launched your solo music, and just pushing through any of those walls that may have come up in front of you?
I don't know about the walls because I didn't let there be any, because we didn't have goals or expectations. And I didn't have goals or expectations with my solo stuff. Avail is a huge accident. Avail didn't know what we were doing when we were doing it. We didn't know what we were doing when we were touring for 5 weeks in Europe on tours that were set up with fax machines because there was no technology, and calling squats and alternate venues was unaffordable. We didn't know what we were doing when we were playing trailers in Biloxi, Mississippi, or generator punk shows in Eugene, Oregon. We had no idea. And the same thing with the solo stuff. I made music and was surprised that people liked it. And the people who liked it weren't Avail fans. And so there was no barriers, there was no walls, because there was no expectations. I'm fine with playing for 5 people, and I'm fine with playing for 500. So there was nothing to break through, because popularity or sort of status is irrelevant, and money, because I can do anything and I don't need to make money off of music if I can do other jobs. But that work ethic, for whatever reason, the need to, the compulsion to like keep doing what I was doing has never left me.
It's the compulsion is an interesting thing, because I think I kind of have a similar thing. I keep wanting to make things and do new things and try stuff, and I don't really know where it comes from in me either. Like, sometimes I'm like, why am I doing a podcast? It's just like, there's just something there.
Why am I writing like a short book right now? Like, is it any good? But here I identified the reason a couple years ago, and this is it for me. When I was young, if you played in punk music, you were done and washed up by like 25. Okay. And so after 30 years of touring, I always think it's my last year of touring. I always think, okay, I got these show offers. This is a real honor to be playing these shows. I'm very privileged. Next year, no one's going to care. So I'm going to do these shows. I'm going to put out this record, and I'm going to do the best that I can and play like it's the last time I can play, because no one's going to care. And for whatever reason, a small group of people still care. And so I fall into the next cycle, the next year, thinking this is the last time anyone's going to care. And I'll tell you what, when the pandemic shut everything down, I was fine, because I had played my last shows like I was never going to play a show again. And I do that every night. And so where a lot of people were sort of moping, I was like, man, that was fun.
Yeah. I mean, it was probably a welcome break too. I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, I'll never get that time back with my kids. And I so that was super important to me to spend all that time with them. But I truly was like, man, what a wild ride that was, playing music for all that time.
Yeah.
And so now every show, since, is like icing on the cake. But I do think that's some of the reason behind my drive is like, I guess that's a way of saying that I don't take it for granted.
If you do come to a time, we'll rewind back to pre-COVID, and you were getting exhausted or burnt out with whatever if you're on the road doing however many shows a year, how do you stay balanced when you start to feel that exhaustion and burnout creep in?
My balance is in total control. I answer to no one but myself. I don't have management. I don't have a record label that's pushing me for sales. I have no one to answer to but myself. If I am pushing myself too hard, there is no one to blame but me.
Yeah.
So I stop it. I won't do it. And that was going on for years. I was, coming home from tours and realizing that I should make them shorter. To the time, at this point, I won't do 2 or 3 shows in a row, more than 2 or 3 shows in a row. So to answer that question, is the control that I have has afforded me the ability to make decisions that keep me wanting to do this. If you told me tomorrow that I needed to do a 5-week tour with 2 days off, like on my normal old schedules, I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I'd knock on the door at a shop and get a job. And, or, like I decided to stop touring internationally. If you offered me to play in London next week, I probably just wouldn't do it. Or Sydney, or I mean, internationally, meaning like overseas and whatnot. I got to be close to my kids. Toronto, Montreal, that's fine. It's London, Ontario, I'm into that. But those are the decisions that I had to make. At some point, I had to say to myself, I can't always come to you, so you might need to come to me. I've put in plenty of miles coming to you.
Awesome. Anything that you want to plug or talk about before we go?
No, I'm just working my butt off here. I got plenty of stuff to plug, but I'm not good at plugging stuff. So it's pretty easy to figure out my projects by a quick search.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for coming on with me today, Tim.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening today. Please subscribe to the Artist Work Ethic podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, and please rate and review the show. Follow us on Instagram at The Artist's Work Ethic, and check out theartistsworkethic.com.